The night my mother was honored for protecting children with special needs, I was sitting in the back row with proof that she had failed them. The auditorium was full. Teachers, parents, board members, local reporters, and half the town were standing on their feet, clapping for Dr. Helena Reyes. My mother. She stood at the podium in a navy suit, holding her award with both hands, smiling like the room had always belonged to her. Behind her, the banner called her a champion of special education. People clapped harder when she talked about inclusion. They nodded when she said every child deserved to be seen. They rose to their feet when she said the district had become a place where no student was left behind. I did not stand. In my lap was a folded letter from the state. A federal special education audit. The kind of letter that does not care about awards, applause, or family names. The kind that asks one simple question. Did the children receive what the district said they received? I already knew the answer. Not all of them did. I had spent years managing special education records in the district my mother ran. I reviewed student plans, therapy logs, service reports, parent complaints, eligibility files, and reimbursement forms. I knew the system better than almost anyone in that building, and I knew something was wrong. At first, I told myself it was a mistake, a missed therapy session, a bad service log, a provider who forgot to update paperwork. Things like that happen in schools. Then I saw it again, and again, and again. Children were listed as receiving services they had not received. Therapy logs were signed when no therapy had happened. Federal funds had been claimed for support that existed only on paper, and at the bottom of those claims was my mother's signature. Dr. Helena Reyes, authorized. The same woman now standing under bright lights, being called the best superintendent in the state. I looked at the award in her hands, then at the audit letter in mine. The applause rolled through the room like a wave. And all I could think was this. If every child deserved to be seen, why had my mother spent years making sure some of them disappeared inside paperwork? People began moving toward the lobby for the reception. My mother stepped away from the podium, surrounded by people who wanted to shake her hand. No one looked at me. That was normal. I had spent most of my life being invisible beside Helena Reyes, not because she was cruel in a way people could see. She was warm. She remembered names. She touched shoulders when she spoke. She sent handwritten notes after funerals and casseroles after surgeries. She could make a room feel like she had personally built it for the people inside. But with me, she was always on her way somewhere else. A meeting, a board vote, a ceremony, a speech. A child in the district who needed her more than her own daughter did. That was the story she told herself. And for a long time, I believed it too. I walked out through the side door before anyone could stop me. The door stuck in the frame and made its usual ugly sound. Nobody turned around. Outside, the night air was cold. I stood near the parking lot with the audit letter folded in my hand. My father used to say, "Your mother built this district, Diana, but you protect the people inside it." He died before he ever saw what she was really protecting. I drove home and placed the letter on my kitchen table. Then I sat there in the quiet and waited for morning. I was a child when I first learned my mother did not believe in needing help. A school psychologist had told her I was dyslexic. I remember the office. A poster of a kitten hanging from a branch, a box of flash cards, a paragraph I could not read because the letters kept moving around on the page like they were trying to escape. The psychologist spoke gently. She recommended reading support, extra time, audiobooks, and an education plan. My mother listened with her principal face. Then she said, "Reyes women do not need accommodations." That was it. Meeting over. No plan. No support, no letter to my teacher, no mother holding my hand in the car and telling me there was nothing wrong with needing help. I learned to read by sitting on the floor of the public library with audiobooks and oversized headphones. I followed the words with my finger until my eyes hurt. The librarians knew me. Sometimes they let me stay a little past closing because they knew I was fighting something I did not have language for yet. By the time my grades improved, everyone assumed I had simply caught up. No one asked what it had cost. Years later, I won an essay contest. I had written about a teacher who stayed after school and helped me understand a book I thought I would never understand. I called her the teacher who saw me. My mother missed the ceremony for a school board meeting. She told me, "You understand, this is important." I said I understood. After that, I stopped writing for myself. My father was the only person in our house who noticed those things. He noticed when I went quiet. He noticed when my mother looked through me. He noticed when I read the same page too many times and pretended I was fine. When he died, my mother gave a long eulogy about their shared work in the district. She talked about students, legacy, community, and everything they had built together. She did not say my name. She did not say my sister Anna's name either. After the funeral, Anna told me I could leave. She did. She moved to Boston and built a life far enough away that our mother's shadow could not reach every window. I stayed. That is the part I still do not fully understand. Maybe I stayed for the children. Maybe I stayed because I knew the district needed someone who actually read the files. Maybe I stayed because some quiet, foolish part of me still wanted my mother to turn around one day and say, "That is my daughter. She is the one who does the real work." She never did, but I had built something of my own. On weekends and some evenings, I ran a small private advocacy practice out of a storefront in East Merrimack. Parents came to me when schools denied services, delayed evaluations, ignored dyslexia, or buried children under polite words and bad paperwork. I did not advertise. Parents found me anyway. They called me the quiet bulldozer. I hated the nickname at first. Then I kept hearing it from mothers who cried in my office after years of being told they were overreacting. Fathers who brought folders full of emails. Grandparents raising children who needed help nobody wanted to pay for. I won most of those cases because I knew where districts hid the truth. In service logs, in wording, in missing signatures, in dates that did not match meetings, in the tiny spaces between what a child needed and what a district wanted to afford. I had enough savings to leave my mother's district. I could have opened my practice full-time and never sat 3 floors below her office again, but I stayed. Because I thought if I left, the children inside Merrimack Valley would have no one in the room who knew how to look closely. Then the audit letter came, and I stopped pretending. On Monday morning, I arrived before most of the building was awake. The district office was an old textile mill by the river. The floors creaked in familiar places. The pipes knocked in winter. The special education storage rooms smelled like dust, paper, and old filing cabinets. I turned on the lights and started pulling files. At first, I told myself I would only check a few. One child, then another, then another. The first file that truly stopped me belonged to a boy who had supposedly received speech therapy all year. According to the reimbursement claim, the sessions had happened. According to the employment records, the therapist had left the district months earlier. A child had been billed as served by someone who no longer worked there. I sat on the floor with the file open in my lap. Numbers do not move around the way letters did when I was little. Numbers sit still. They tell the truth if you let them. I pulled more files: speech therapy, occupational therapy, counseling, transportation support, one-on-one aids, children whose plans promised help, claims that said help had been delivered, records that showed otherwise. By the end of the day, the storage room floor looked like a paper storm. I packed copies carefully and took the work home. At my kitchen table, with only the sink light on, I cross-checked every service log against every reimbursement claim I could access. The river outside my window moved black and slow. Coffee went cold beside me. I barely noticed. The money was supposed to help children learn to speak clearly, hold pencils, manage sensory needs, ride safely to school, sit with support, read with help, and survive days that other children passed through without thinking. Instead, the money had been moved into district holes my mother did not want anyone to see: extra administrators, a technology contract that went nowhere, travel, office expenses, programs that looked good in board presentations, not speech therapy, not occupational therapy, not aids, not the children, and on every important approval form there it was, My mother's signature, clean, confident, final. I stood in my apartment doorway and looked at the files spread across the floor. So many children, so many promises, so many signatures. My mother had built her career as the face of special education excellence. But behind the applause, children had been waiting for services already paid for in their names. I opened a spreadsheet, not because I needed one to believe it. Because if I was going to say the truth out loud, I needed it to stand without me. For several days, I built the case. I made copies and stored them in different places. One set at my apartment, one set in my advocacy office, one sealed box with Anna in Boston. She looked at the box like I had handed her something alive. You think something is going to happen to you? No, I said, but I did not think our mother was taking money from disabled children either. Anna opened the box despite what I told her. She read the first file, then another. Her face changed in a way I had only seen once before, at our father's funeral. How much? She asked. I did not give her an exact number. Enough, I said. Enough to change lives, enough to make children wait while adults got paid. Anna closed the box. Her hands stayed on the lid. Dad would have hated this. I know. We sat in her kitchen without speaking. The train rattled outside. A cinnamon candle burned on the counter. For a moment, I wanted to be a child again. Not because childhood had been easy, but because at least then I did not know this much. I spent the next day in my advocacy office. The bakery on the corner was making bread, and the whole block smelled warm and alive. Inside my tiny office, the files covered my desk. I traced the funds, service claims, provider logs, employment records, budget transfers, district expenditures. Each path led back to the same thing. The children were used as reasons to request money. Then that money was used somewhere else. By the time I finished, the case was not a suspicion anymore. It was a map my mother had signed. I called Anna that night. I'm going to talk to her, I said. No. I have to give her a chance. To do what? Explain why children didn't get services. Maybe someone else handled the transfers. Maybe she signed what was put in front of her. You do not believe that? No, I said, I do not. My mother's office was on the top floor in the corner suite with the river view. I had been inside it many times, but almost never as her daughter, mostly as staff, a coordinator, a person taking notes against the wall while she sat at the head of the table. This time I walked in with one file, just one. I thought if I started small, she might let the truth into the room. She was behind her desk. Of course the desk was clean. My mother's desk was always clean. A laptop, a phone. A framed photo of her with the governor. No photo of me, no photo of Anna. She looked up. Diana. She did not sound surprised. That was my first warning. You know why I'm here, I said. I know you have been pulling student files without authorization. The words hit like a door closing. I am the special education coordinator. Reviewing those files is my job. Not like this. I went still. She knew, not just that I had found something, she knew how much I had pulled. She knew when I had stayed late. She knew I had copies. How long have you been watching me? I asked. Her face did not change. I am the superintendent. I watch everything. For 1 second, my mother disappeared, and all that remained was Dr. Helena Reyes, the woman who controlled the building, the budgets, the board, the narrative. She stood slowly. Here is what will happen, she said. You will return every file, delete every spreadsheet. And remember that confidential student records are protected by law. I looked at her. Those children did not get their services. I do not know what you think you found. I found the reimbursement claims. Her eyes sharpened slightly. Not fear, calculation, that hurt more. You need to be very careful, she said, about what you say next to anyone. I had imagined anger, denial, tears, a mother breaking under the shame of what she had done. Instead, she threatened me like I was a staff problem. I looked at the file in my hand. A child's name on the tab, my mother's signature inside, the whole truth sitting between us. I did not place it on her desk. I did not argue. I turned and walked out. The hallway felt longer than it ever had. The same old floor creaked near the stairwell. The lights buzzed overhead. People passed me with coffee cups and folders. Everything looked ordinary. That made it worse. In the parking lot, I sat in my car with both hands on the wheel. They were steady. That scared me more than shaking would have. My mother had told me to be careful about what I said next, so I went home and waited to see what she would do. She moved quickly. A few days later, Human Resources called me in. The HR director was a kind woman who had known me for years. She had a photo of her dog on her desk and a voice that usually made bad news sound softer. That morning, she could not look at me. "I'm sorry, Diana," she said. She slid a letter across the desk. Administrative leave. Unauthorized access to confidential records. Badge collected. Computer access suspended. No contact with staff. No entry onto district property. My mother had signed it. I handed over my badge. I walked back to my cubicle and packed my mug into a small box. It was a ridiculous mug Anna had bought me as a joke. World's okayest special ed coordinator. I passed people I had worked beside for years. No one spoke. Some looked away. One of the new administrators, whose salary had been paid by the money I was tracing, looked at me and then looked down at her phone. The parking lot door slammed behind me with a sound like a sentence ending. I sat in my car. That was when my hands started shaking. Not in my mother's office. Not when I found the files. Not when I saw her signature. Only then, after she made me the problem. I put my hands on the steering wheel and waited for them to stop. They did not, so I drove home with them shaking. Then I opened my laptop and filed the state complaint. I attached everything. The spreadsheet, the service logs, the reimbursement forms, the signatures, the explanation that I had been suspended after discovering the problem. Before I pressed send, I read it over. Once. Twice. Then I stopped. If I read it again, I might start thinking like a daughter, so I pressed send as an advocate. A few days later, David Park called. He was a senior special education auditor at the state. His voice was calm, not comforting exactly, but steady enough to hold on to. We met in Boston in a government office that felt like every government office. Long elevator wait, tired employees, beige walls, too many files. David had gray hair, glasses that slid down his nose, and the kind of desk that looked messy only until you realized he knew where everything was. He had reviewed my documentation. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he took off his glasses and cleaned them on his shirt. "This is extremely thorough," he said. From someone like him, that was not a compliment. It was a warning. He opened a formal investigation. He explained that he would audit the district's special education reimbursements, compare service logs to provider records, and trace how the money moved after it entered the district accounts. He also warned me. "These cases can stay quiet if the district cooperates," he said. "But your mother has a public reputation. If she fights, this will become very public." I looked at him. I have been preparing for that longer than I knew. He wrote something on his notepad. The radiator in his office ticked like an old clock. Then I went looking for Alina Ruiz. Alina had been a special education teacher in Merrimack Valley. She had left suddenly. Around the same time, I first noticed something wrong in a service log. That timing did not feel accidental. It took me a while to find her. She had left education and was working retail in New Hampshire. I drove there on a weekend and found her at a returns counter, wearing a red vest and the tired face of someone who had once cared too much. "Alina Ruiz." She looked up. "My name is Diana Reyes," I said. "I used to be special education coordinator at Merrimack Valley. Helena Reyes is my mother." Something in her face changed. "I do not work there anymore," she said. "I know, neither do I." She took her break in the store cafe. We sat at a plastic table near a humming soda machine. She wrapped both hands around her coffee like she was cold. "I know about the signatures," I said. Her hands tightened. She looked down. "I did not want to sign them." I waited. "She called me in," Alina said. "She said the district was in a difficult budget situation. She said the service logs were paperwork, a formality. She said the children would still be taken care of later. Her voice went smaller. Then she said if I wanted to keep my job, I needed to help the district get through the year. How long? Too long. Her eyes filled, but she did not cry. I kept signing until I could not look at the kids anymore. That sentence went through me like cold water. I told her about the investigation. I told her David Park would need witnesses. I am not asking you to save me, I said. I am telling you there is a way to tell the truth. She looked at me. Will I get in trouble? I do not know, I said. But I know the person who should answer for this is the one who told you to sign. She sat very still. The soda machine hummed again, then she nodded. I will talk. David interviewed her soon after. Her testimony matched the records, the signatures, the pressure, the missing services, the fear. The case became stronger than I wanted it to be. That sounds strange, but it is true. Every new piece of proof made the truth harder to deny. And every piece of proof was another reminder that my mother had done exactly what I feared. The hearing was scheduled. For weeks, I barely slept. I had the documents, the witness, the state investigation. Anna had the backup box. My private practice was still there, waiting like a door I could open if everything else burned down. The quiet bulldozer was ready. But Diana Reyes, daughter of Helena Reyes, was not. The hearing took place in a district conference room too small for the number of people who came. That was the first sign my mother had chosen the public fight. Board members sat at the front. State officials lined one wall. Parents filled the back rows. Teachers stood near the doors. Reporters waited with notebooks. My mother sat at the front table in another navy suit. Perfect hair, perfect folder, perfect face. The same face she wore when she accepted the award. I sat behind David Park. Anna sat behind me. When I turned, she gave me one small nod. Enough. The board chair opened the hearing with formal words about compliance, student services, and public trust. Then my mother spoke. She was good. Of course she was good. She talked about budget pressure, staffing shortages, pandemic aftershocks, overwhelmed providers, impossible systems, and her lifelong commitment to children with special needs. She did not say the money had been misused. She did not say children had gone without services. She said the district had faced challenges. Challenges, that was the word she chose. Then David stood. He did not raise his voice. He did not accuse. He walked the room through the records. Service plans promised. Services billed, provider records missing, therapists no longer employed, children marked as served when they had not been. Funds moved away from special education support and into general district spending. He showed signature after signature. Dr. Helena Reyes authorized. The room changed slowly. At first, people leaned forward. Then they stopped moving. Then the parents in the back began whispering. One mother started crying. I did not know her, but I knew that cry. It was the sound parents make when they realize the system did not just fail their child. It used their child. Then David called Alina. She walked to the front with both hands clasped in front of her. She looked terrified, but she sat down. She swore to tell the truth. Then she did. She said she had been pressured to sign service logs. She said she had been told the paperwork was temporary. She said she had been afraid of losing her job. She said children did not receive services the district had claimed. She said the superintendent knew. The room went silent. My mother did not look at Alina. She looked at me. For the first time in years, really looked at me, not like an employee, not like an inconvenience. Not like a daughter she had no time to see, like an opponent. That hurt. But it also freed something in me because I finally understood. She had always seen me when I stood in her way, only then. After Alina finished, the board chair asked my mother if she wanted to respond. My mother stood. She placed both hands on the table. For a second, I thought she would find a way out, a story, an excuse, a speech that made everyone feel guilty for questioning her, but no words came. The room waited. My mother looked at the parents, the teachers, the board, the reporters, then finally at me. She opened her mouth, closed it, and sat back down. It was the first time I had ever seen Helena Reyes lose control of a room. The board voted to refer the matter for full state action. My mother was placed on leave. The district was ordered to begin correcting every affected student file. Outside monitors would review services. Parents would be notified. Reimbursement records would be turned over for deeper investigation. The award from that night in the auditorium suddenly looked like something from another life. After the hearing, people moved around me in shocked silence. Some parents stared. Some cried. One father walked up to me and said, "My son waited for speech therapy for 2 years." I did not know what to say. "I am sorry" felt too small, so I said the only true thing I had. "I know I am going to help fix it." He nodded and walked away. My mother left through the side door, not the main entrance, not past the cameras, not past the parents, the side door. The kind nobody uses because it sticks and makes a terrible sound. I watched her go. I did not follow. A few days later, Anna came to my apartment. She brought takeout I did not want and sat at my kitchen table until I ate some of it. "You did the right thing," she said. "I know." "You do not sound like you know." "I know it in my head." She looked at me carefully. "And the rest of you?" "The rest of me is still her daughter." Anna reached across the table and took my hand. For once, I let her. The district tried to move on quickly. Districts always do. They hire interim people, issue statements, hold listening sessions, and use words like healing and accountability. But the parents were not quiet, not this time. My mother's portrait came down from the administration lobby. No announcement. No ceremony. One morning it was there. The next, the wall was empty. The planned early childhood center was renamed before the first brick was ever placed. The award committee rescinded her honor quietly, with a statement that sounded like it had been written by 3 lawyers and a frightened communications director. My administrative leave was lifted, but I did not go back. That surprised some people. It did not surprise me. I had spent years thinking I stayed to protect the children from inside the system. But systems have walls, and sometimes walls protect the wrong people. I opened my advocacy practice full-time. The tiny storefront in East Merrimack became louder than it had ever been. Parents came with folders, evaluations, emails, and the exhausted eyes of people who had been told no too many times. I hired Anna part-time to help with writing appeals. She was still teaching, but she came on weekends and sat across from me with a legal pad, helping parents turn pain into sentences the system could not ignore. Elena came once, not as a client, just to tell me she had gone back to school part-time to finish a counseling degree. "I still think about those kids," she said. "So do I." She nodded. "I hope thinking about them becomes something useful." I understood that. Some guilt just sits there unless you turn it into work. Months passed. The district began providing makeup services. Some children received therapy after school. Some got outside providers. Some families received settlements. It was not enough, it never is, but it was something. David Park sent me the final state report. No note, just the report. At the bottom of the email, he had written one sentence. "Your documentation made this possible." From David, that was almost emotional. I printed it and placed it in the same drawer where I kept thank you notes from parents. I never heard from my mother directly. Not at first. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived, handwritten. No return address, but I knew the handwriting before I opened it. Diana. I did what I thought the district needed. That was the first line. I almost stopped reading. Not "I am sorry." Not "I hurt children." Not "I hurt you." I did what I thought the district needed. The rest of the letter was worse in some places and better in others. She wrote about pressure, budget gaps, public expectations. Her fear that the district she built would collapse if people saw how bad the finances had become. Near the end, she wrote one line that made me sit down. I saw every child in this district except the one sitting across from me at my own table. I read that line several times. It was not enough, but it was the first true thing she had given me in years. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. I did not write back, not yet. Maybe one day, maybe not. On the first anniversary of the hearing, I went back to Merrimack Valley High. Not for a ceremony. There was no ceremony. I went because a parent had asked me to attend her daughter's IEP meeting as an advocate. The girl had dyslexia, bright eyes, quiet voice, hands gripping the edge of the table. Her mother sat beside her with a folder full of evaluations and the tired courage of someone who had been fighting for too long. The meeting was in a conference room near the auditorium. Afterward, I walked past the double doors. The auditorium was empty, rows and rows of seats. A stage, a podium pushed to the side. No applause, no award, no navy suit. I stepped inside for a moment. The back row was still there, the last seat on the left, near the side door that sticks. I sat down. For once, I did not sit there so I could leave unnoticed. I sat there because I had stayed long enough to understand something. My mother had spent her life making rooms stand for her. I had spent mine learning how to make records speak for people who could not. That was enough. My phone buzzed. A message from the mother I had just helped. Thank you. She said she felt heard for the first time. I looked at the empty stage, then at the side door, then at the message again. When I was little, I thought being seen meant someone important finally turning toward me. Now I knew better. Being seen meant one child leaving a meeting with the support she needed. One parent walking out with shoulders a little less heavy. One record corrected. One service delivered. One truth placed where a lie used to be. I stood up and walked out through the main doors. Not the side door, not quietly, not unnoticed. The hallway lights were bright. My footsteps echoed. And for the first time in a long time, I did not feel invisible.